This happened about 2 weeks ago. I am still not completely over it, but I need to share it because keeping it to myself is driving me crazy. My name is Mike, but everyone calls me Mikey. I am 22 years old and I still live with my parents in Northern California. And before you ask, no, it is not the California most people imagine. I always have to explain this to people. Not every part of the state has beaches and palm trees. Where I live, it snows a lot. I mean heavy snow. I live in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by forest. The closest neighbor is about a 10-minute drive away. I have been skiing my whole life, so the cold does not bother me. If anything, I actually prefer it, but that is not really the point. The important part is that 2 weekends ago, my parents flew out of the country for a wedding. One of my mom's friends was getting married in Portugal. I was not invited, but I did not really care. Having the house to myself for a weekend sounded nice. Our house is nothing special. It is a standard one-story house with 3 bedrooms. There is nothing fancy about it. My parents' bedroom is on one end of the hallway. My bedroom is on the opposite end. Between them is a guest room that we mostly use for storage. The living room and kitchen are in the center of the house. The front door opens directly into the living room. I am explaining the layout because it will be important later. The first night alone was completely normal. I went to bed around 2 a.m. and fell asleep pretty quickly. The second night is when everything went wrong. I went to bed around the same time, maybe a little earlier. I remember feeling more tired than usual, so I fell asleep fast. I do not know what time it was when I woke up, but it was definitely the middle of the night. That is very unusual for me. I knew something had woken me up because I always put my phone on airplane mode when I sleep, so it was not my phone. I had no idea what woke me up. I looked around my room, but it was completely dark. As my eyes slowly adjusted, I noticed something strange. My closet door was wide open. I always keep that door closed. Always. It is a sliding door that does not stay shut by itself, so I make sure to close it every night before bed. I know that might sound weird, but I have been uncomfortable with open closet doors since I was a kid. The point is, I did not leave it open. I know for a fact that I did not. I started to panic. My brain was trying to convince me that I was still dreaming, but I knew I was awake. I was fully conscious. My heart started racing, and I had a strong feeling that something was very wrong. Without thinking, I reached over to my nightstand, grabbed my phone, and turned on the flashlight. I screamed the moment I saw them. There were 2 figures standing at the edge of my bed. They were just standing there. Before I could see any details, they ran in opposite directions, like they were trying to avoid the light. The way they moved was terrifying. They were incredibly fast, almost like they knew I was about to turn the light on. I waved my phone around, trying to keep the flashlight on them, but they moved too quickly. I heard something hit the floor, but I did not have time to think about it. I started screaming. I do not even know what I was screaming. I think I was just making noise out of pure fear. The 2 figures ran toward my bedroom door. I heard their footsteps pounding down the hallway, and without thinking, I chased after them. By the time I got out of bed and reached the hallway, I heard the front door slam shut. I ran into the living room, but they were already gone. I stood there in the living room for I do not know how long. My hands were shaking, and I was trying to slow my breathing. As soon as I felt calm enough, I ran back to my room, locked the door, and called 911. While I waited for the police to arrive, I stayed inside my locked bedroom. That was when I finally turned on the light. That is when I saw what had fallen during the chaos. On the floor, near the edge of my bed, was one of my mom's kitchen knives. I almost threw up. I'm not exaggerating. Those people had been standing over me with a knife while I was sleeping. If I had not woken up when I did, I do not want to imagine what could have happened. I probably would not have woken up at all. The police arrived about 20 minutes later. They searched the entire property, but they did not find anyone. They took my statement and asked me many questions. One of the officers then told me that I must have forgotten to lock the front door. I told him that I remembered locking it, but he just shrugged. He said it was the only explanation because there were no signs of forced entry. Every other door and window in the house was locked. The only door that could have been unlocked was the front door. I accepted that explanation and watched the officers leave. But deep down, I knew I had locked the front door. My parents came home the next day. They scolded me for forgetting to lock the door, but that part is not important. Now it has been 2 weeks, and I still do not have an explanation. It does not even matter whether the door was locked or not. Why were people standing in my bedroom with a knife? If they wanted to rob the house, they could have done it quietly. I would not have noticed them coming or going. At first, I thought maybe the people who broke in knew my parents were out of the country. Now I am starting to doubt that idea. I find it hard to believe that normal thieves would go out of their way to kill someone.